It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
The No Kings protests. Ooh. Mr. Producer, where's the No Queens protest? You know, the No Kings protest. The Democrats who organized this and the radical thugs, the Marxists, the Islamists, the Antifites, the BLMites, a very broad representation of the radical, extreme, nutjob left. And I got to thinking, ladies and gentlemen, they keep saying there were 7 million people out there. I must confess I didn't see that many. And then I thought to myself, well, there's 330 million of us who were not, who had no interest in it whatsoever. Now, if we really had somebody who was violating the Constitution relentlessly, and not only relentlessly, but in ways that was creating a dictatorship, wouldn't there be more than 7 million people? And would they only be Marxists, Islamists, BLM, Antifa, elected Democrats? I mean, wouldn't we all be joining them? I think we would. Now, it's funny how they put these numbers out, 7 million. Remember the Tea Party movement, which we were very, very involved in? If this crowd had 7 million, we had 20 million. We had massive rallies all the time. And not just on one day, and certainly not funded by George Soros and other comrades of his who hate America and try to destroy America, as they tried to destroy Britain and try to destroy Israel and the whole West, for that matter. There were many more of us than them. But the media keeps pushing it hard. Our friends at Newsbusters pointed out that they couldn't stop reporting about No Kings protest, whereas the March for Life and other massive protests that we, patriotic Americans, receive almost no attention whatsoever. Now, I happen to be in Baltimore, where my wonderful wife ran a marathon, and did very well, I might add. And there were other people running marathons. I didn't see any great protest or even a little parade of the No Kings movement, but there were people who sort of pasted it on their back. Some of them were running. But it is true what the president and others have said. These are like the old-time 1960s hippies. Older than me. They're really getting into it. They were kind of excited about all this. If I could even find them. They were kind of mulling around. There was no mass organized group of No Kings movement in Baltimore. Oh, there were some, please, don't get me wrong. But if that's representative of 7 million, there were not 7 million. Not that I care. Not that I care. This is entirely a Democrat Party concoction, a fiction, along with the most radical kooks in their organizations that hate America. It was a hate America protest of sorts. But in any event, 330 million of us did not participate. And I dare say 329 million didn't even know it was taking place. I thought I'd point that out. Now, I've been telling you behind this microphone day in and day out and elsewhere that the president's use of the National Guard, and in fact, if he chooses the Insurrection Act, is clearly constitutional. Not just based on the Constitution and federal law, but based on prior use by past presidents. A panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled exactly that just now and overturned a lower court judge. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that President Donald Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard troops into the city of Portland, delivering a significant victory to the Trump administration. I hate when they write that. That's Fox. But it's not a victory to the Trump administration. It's a victory for America. It's a victory for upholding the Constitution. I told you before, this was never in doubt. If something happens, it's because we have rogue judges who are doing it. But this was never, ever, ever in doubt. It's not even a close call. And yet it was a 2-1 decision on the panel. Judges on the 3-member panel ruled 2-1 to authorize Trump's deployment. Judge Ryan Nelson and Judge Bridget Bade, both appointed by Trump. And I should note that they mention who's appointed by Trump. How many decisions are out there usurping presidential authority in the Constitution, undermining the president, where they mention which president appointed them? I have to go look it up and tell you. But 2 were appointed by President Trump, and 1 by Clinton, Susan Graber. If you're considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 1240-06-3, authorizes the federalization of the National Guard, quote, when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. The move has become a political flashpoint, they write, as protesters opposing his key policies have clashed with law enforcement. Well, that's the problem, because that effectively is the militia of the Democrat Party. When you see people fighting, pushing back, throwing things, violent, against federal law enforcement, those are Democrats, or people who identify with Democrats. Because the Democrats, the party, its surrogates, are urging exactly that, just so you know. What happened was a lower federal court judge in Oregon temporarily blocked Trump's attempt, I'm reading, to deploy troops to Portland earlier this month. The Ninth Circuit agreed to hear. The panel overruled. The lower court had described Trump's action in her emergency order, and she was way, way off. I told you her opinion was basically an opinion piece she could have ran in any major left-wing newspaper. She said it was untethered to reality, and one that she said risks blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. Obviously, this judge was ignorant, and is ignorant. Again, I've gone through the history of the Insurrection Act, and even before there was an Insurrection Act, presidential authority and use of the military to enforce federal law, whether it's integration, whether it's to open up business activity that's being that is threatening the well-being of the nation, whether it's a rebellion like the Whiskey Rebellion, whether it's to put down a riot like George H.W. Bush did in Los Angeles. And here you can see the president's trying to enforce existing immigration laws. He didn't write them. Existing immigration laws on deportation. And the Democrat Party, governors who want to be president, mayors who are radical leftists, who now rely on illegal immigrants for their support, they say no. They're not going to comply with the law, as if it's the old Confederacy, as if they're nullifying federal immigration law and the Constitution's supremacy clause. And the media are fine with that. So the irony of this calling No Kings protest. No Kings is about as absurd as it gets. That's why 330 million Americans did not protest. Now, what else has happened here that proves these people to be as buffoonish as possible? The president is working this all through the courts. even the activist rogue judges. If they rule he can't use National Guard, federalize them, they stand down. The circuit rules that he can, they're back in action. Where is this President King? Exactly when and where? I want to know. Nowhere. Nowhere. Just because the Democrats say, he's militarizing our cities, as they criminalize the cities, as they create an environment for illegal aliens from anywhere in the world to come into this country, particularly the crowd that wants to overthrow our country. I spent a lot of time on this Sunday night on Fox, as I have here, the purpose of immigration. The purpose of immigration, to keep it simple, is to improve our society, is to bring people into our country who will improve the lot of the citizens who are here. It's not supposed to be they come here so they get health care. They come here because they want to come here. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And that's not the way it's going to work under Trump. They've turned all this inside out and upside down. Immigration is not for the benefit of the foreigner. It's for the benefit of the American citizen, our society. So if somebody can't contribute, but they're going to immediately be on the dole, in the past they were not allowed into the country. If somebody is going to protest our country, they were not allowed into the country. Now, they have free speech rights under the first, due process, free speech. That wasn't always the case. If you're coming here for the purpose of overthrowing our country, if you're coming here for the purpose of chasing Jews down the streets, or burning the American flag, or carrying the Hamas or the Islamic Jihad or the Iranian flags, you're out of here. You're not even supposed to be here. That's been the position. That's been the position of our government and our country for over 200 years, until the 1960s. Just so you know. So no kings, no queens, I guess. Nobody of the sort. Anti-Israel radicals, of course, joined the anti-Trump no kings crowd, as Fox points out. In other words, the anti-Semites are all in with the Democrats. I think we can now say the Democrat Party is the Hamas party. They've accepted the Democrat-Socialist, a.k.a. Marxist-Islamist Mamdani, into their midst. And they're going to back him all the way like the governor has.
Mark Levin.
Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, referred to DOJ for prosecution. Oh, retribution. It's not retribution. The guy's accused of lying in front of Congress. Would only Republicans go to prison over that? That allegation? CNN's future's at stake. Owner Warner Brothers Discovery is seeking a sale. They're not going to get much. That's for sure. Let's see here. Putin-Trump summit on hold after Russia rejects ceasefire. I think at some point we'll understand as a country and as a government what Russia is and is not, and who Putin is. Putin's KGB. Putin admires Stalin. Putin talks about cutting through Ukraine and going after Poland and so forth. So I don't know why we don't believe the man, what he's written, what he says, and who he is. Now, there's a lot of time spent today. We have Jared Kushner and Stephen Witkoff over in Israel. We have the vice president over in Israel. We have the CENTCOM, Cooper General. He's over in Israel. So what's going on over in Israel? Well, I'll tell you what must be going on over in Israel. And no, I do not have any inside information. I do not seek inside information. Unless the president calls me, or Jared calls me, or Witkoff calls me, or something like that. But I don't talk to the ambassador or the ambassador's staff, including my stepson. This is just stuff I'm reading and gauging, because I've been around a little while. The concern seems to be that Israel will say, hey, look, Hamas is out of control. You're not disarming Hamas. You're not removing Hamas. Hamas killed 2 IDF soldiers yesterday and wounded many more. We have Qatar putting out these outrageous statements. The emir put out outrageous statements. We have Turkey that wants to destroy us. You're relying on them. I mean, here's a headline, New York Post. Israel shares video of Hamas torturing, executing Palestinians as they beg for relief. Urges journalists to shine a light on the atrocities. No, they won't. Doesn't involve Israel. Washington Free Beacon. Hamas commandeers schools and hospitals to interrogate its Gazan opponents. All of a sudden, nobody cares about the life of the Palestinians but the Israelis. It's incredible. Certainly not in our country. New York Times. Nations hesitate to send troops to Gaza, fearing clashes with Hamas. So this big volunteer force of Arab and Muslim countries so far? No. President says there's a lot of volunteers. I say, well, go. Let's go. Associated Press. Erdogan opposed Netanyahu's attendance at the summit, Turkish official confirms. And so what happened? He was disinvited last week to the summit in Egypt. Now, Turkey's supposed to be one of the great defenders, you see. Here's what the emir of Qatar said. Ready? This is today. And he says it in their biggest meeting of the year. Excuse me. This is the emir of Qatar, our new best friend. What has taken place on the Gaza Strip over the past 2 years amounts to genocide, a term that encapsulates all atrocities. It is regrettable that international legitimacy remains incapable of enforcing its respect when it comes to the tragedy of our brotherly Palestinian people. And remember, they poured $1.8 billion into Hamas, which is now slaughtering Palestinian civilians who haven't joined up with Hamas. We hereby reaffirm our condemnation of all Israeli violations and practices in Palestine. It's not Palestine. Particularly the transformation of the Gaza Strip into an area unfit for human life, the continued breaches of the ceasefire, which they blame now on Israel. This is Qatar, our mediator. The expansion of settlements in the West Bank, and the ongoing attempts to Judaize Al-Haram al-Sharif. We also reaffirm that the Gaza Strip is an integral part of the Palestinian territories and of the unified state of Palestine. So this is all libel, this is all attack, this is all sleazy. And this is the main country we're relying on, Qatar, to deal with Hamas. Qatar is already spending money on hospitals and schools in the parts of Gaza that are actually protected by the IDF. 52% of Gaza is protected by the IDF. That's the only relatively safe part. Nobody's wanting to go into the Hamas-controlled areas. And Qatar is doing that for a reason, as one expert pointed out not long ago. Because by controlling the educational system and controlling the hospitals, they control the population. And that's the goal for Qatar. They don't do this out of the goodness of their hearts. It is a terror state. That's what it is. A terror state. Now, a central part of this in Phase 2, and we've talked about this many times, it was always my concern, the language was relatively ambiguous, and it's the difficult part, was Hamas. What's going to happen to Hamas? I asked over and over again. How is Hamas going to be disarmed? How is Hamas going to be removed? And I don't think that's been figured out yet. We're not going to put boots on the ground. That's good. The Arab countries and Muslim countries, I'm reading everything I can get my hands on. I'm listening to everything I can hear. And I'm not seeing any of them step up. Not one of them. In fact, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain want nothing to do with this as long as Hamas has any power whatsoever. The dirty little secret is Saudi Arabia hates Qatar and vice versa. And vice versa. Now, the president is aware of this. We pulled together a list here of how many times he has posted on True Social his concerns about Hamas. And I don't want to go back a year or or 6 months or anything like that, but most recently. September 3rd, September 7th, September 15th, October 3rd, October 4th, October 14th, October 16th, and of course today, October 21. The vice president talked about naysayers out there today. There are naysayers on this plane, naysayers, but I have a very positive view of what's taken place. He just showed up today. He's very positive about the progress. It's going to take time. It's complex. Well, that's true. It is going to take time, and it is complex. But just because people raise serious concerns, they see them, they hear them, and they understand them, doesn't mean they're naysayers. It means quite the opposite, that they're prudential. They're realists. They use their brains. That would be somebody like me. The question has always been, what's going to happen to Hamas? And I can predict to you right now, and I don't even do predictions, but I will predict right here. Unless and until Hamas is eliminated, the eternal peace will not be an eternal peace. The best they can hope for is to keep Hamas caged off in that part of Gaza, away from the other part of Gaza, in Israel's border. That's not what the peace deal says. But to me, if this is the route that's being taken, that will be the outcome, or worse. There's no way in hell Israel is going to allow Turkey to have troops in its country, given that Erdogan is a Islamist. He's a genocidal murderer. He wants to destroy the state of Israel. He's made that clear. He has threatened Israel militarily and economically. So that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Saudi Arabia is not jumping in. UAE is not jumping in. Bahrain is so small, I don't even know if they have an army. They're certainly not jumping in. Qatar's not jumping in. Jordan's not jumping in. So who's jumping in? I just would like to know. And now one of these countries would actually take a Palestinian, you might recall. And none of them are offering to take any Palestinians right now. So it is complex, very complicated. And reality is very important. Prudence is very, very important. And apparently nobody cares about the lives of Palestinians anymore except the Israelis. You don't hear a single Arab country talking about it. You don't hear a single Muslim country talking about it. You barely even hear our own country talking about it.
Mark Levin.
You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
Obviously you do, but those people who don't think immigration has an impact, and mass immigration, legal and illegal, without assimilation, that doesn't have an impact, well, you couldn't be more wrong. Every Friday, from Aristotle to Cicero to the Founding Fathers, all the way up to the 70s, even Democrats understood that it did. You have a complete cultural change, a societal change, when you do to a nation what's been done to our nation, what's been done to Europe, and it's not done with. It's not over. We're seeing a very bleak period around the planet now, a dark period. Dark clouds hovering over virtually every Western society. And those dark clouds are the imposition of a Marxist-Islamist ideology, and the smothering of the Enlightenment. And it is stunning how quickly this has happened, but it's happened. And it's happening again across the planet. In our own country. The Democrats want this. The Labor Party wants it. The Liberal parties want it. The Socialist parties want it. The left wants it, regardless of what they call themselves, because they're power hungry. They will be unfortunately for them, eliminated once this revolution by immigration is completed. They are useful idiots. Over at Breitbart, one of the great sites, John Binder writes, decades of mass legal immigration in New York City, New York, have propelled socialist, should be Marxist-Islamist Zohran Mamdani's campaign to be the city's next mayor, a new poll reveals. The poll published by Patriot Polling shows New York City's foreign-born voters are lining up in droves to support Mamdani, an immigrant himself, and his agenda against former New York Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo and lifelong New Yorker Curtis Sliwa. While the polls show Mamdani leading with 43% of the mayoral race, his lead with the city's foreign-born voting base is vastly larger. Among New York City voters born outside the United States, Mamdani leads with a whopping 62%, compared to Cuomo's 24% and Sliwa's 12%. Meanwhile, among native-born Americans in New York City, Cuomo leads with 40%, Mamdani 31%, Sliwa with 25%. Catholic and Jewish voters, the poll finds, are also turned off to Mamdani, with just 29% of Catholics supporting the socialist and 30% of Jews. Those Jews have to be absolutely insane. Cuomo leads with both groups, 41% from Catholics, 63% from Jews. Now, interestingly, they write, despite Mamdani claiming to be the voice of New York City's downtrodden, poor, and working class, his base of support resides in the most expensive boroughs, Manhattan and Brooklyn. The poll sees Mamdani leading in Manhattan, where the average rent is more than $5,700 a month, with 47%. And in Brooklyn, where the average rent is nearly $4,500 a month, with 55%. The Bronx, by far New York City's least costly borough to live in, prefers Cuomo to Mamdani by a thin margin, while Mamdani falls far behind Cuomo and Sliwa in Staten Island. So immigration. Now, obviously, all immigrants are not like this. I meet them all the time. Wonderful people come to the book signings and other events. So I'm excluding those who come here who become American patriots with allegiance to America. I'm not talking about them. The problem is there's not enough of them, legal or illegal. We have been so inundated with foreigners in this country at a clip we've never seen before. And even before, when we saw significant immigration into the country, there was an assimilation process in our public schools, in local government and state government, and in our media. No such assimilation process exists anymore. The radical left-wing extremist teachers unions run K through 12. The radical left-wing extremists and the faculty of one college after another. Our media is filled with people who hate the country. And so the culture has been largely devoured. We even see it in some faiths. We even see it in some churches and synagogues. What's taking place? So the only pushback there is, shows like mine, but at the kitchen table, at the dinner table. That is the family itself. There's really no other pushback, no other organized or systemic pushback. So the instrumentalities of a society that are supposed to be used to reinforce that society have been conquered. 1619 Project, CRT, DEI, Marxist economic and socialist economic belief systems. It's true. And so in New York, what we see is that the immigrant population, including the legal immigrant population, is voting overwhelmingly for Mamdani. When you have Citizens, people, not even naturalized citizens. Citizens, people born in our country, who are not taught the fundamentals of this country, the greatness of this country, patriotism and allegiance to this country, but the opposite, that the country's no damn good, that it was founded in a bastardized society, that it is racist, that it is bigoted, that it is unfair, that it's unequal, that there's too many billionaires, and on and on and on with the Marxist claptrap, now intermingled with the Islamist claptrap, the radical Islamist claptrap. You have a poisonous brew. You have a metastasizing cancer. It's all over Europe. But it's in America. It's in America right now. When you debate Imam Mamdani, these are the things that should be brought up. There's a debate in about 45 minutes. It's another debate. The Democrat Party is in on this now. The Democrat Party is relying on these societal elements, on these populations, on these ideologies for power. It has abandoned the American founding, American history, the American Declaration and Constitution. They only bring it up when they think they can use it against their opponents, but they don't believe in it. They don't believe in power checking power, separation of powers. They don't believe in it. They don't believe in elections. And don't hand me Donald Trump. They don't believe in elections. That's why they rely so much on unelected judges, particularly at the trial level, 700-800 of them. That's why they massively build up their bureaucracy. The Leviathan. The Leviathan. And that's why they will fight to the bitter end to expand it and to increase programs, to spend us into bankruptcy, not on your behalf, but on behalf of government. Government, first and foremost. That is their tool by which to control we the people. Even now, they have quote-unquote shut down the government. Why? Because they want to add $1.5 trillion to it. So what's a little despotism, as Mark said, on the way to the promised land? So foreign-born voters are behind Zohran Mamdani's huge lead in the New York City mayoral race.
Mark Levin.
The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
I wanted to play this short clip when I was on Hannity last night. I know everybody can't watch and listen to radio and TV constantly, so I wanted to get into this a little bit and then discuss it briefly and get your input as well. So here we are, cut one on Hannity on Fox last night. Go.
They're a terror organization. Their charter calls for the destruction of Israel. Now they're mad at people that want peace in their own region, and they're assassinating them. You heard the president, eradicate's a pretty strong word.
It is, and I've listed here in front of me, True Social. The president knows exactly what Hamas is. October 21, October 16, October 14, October 4th, October 3rd, and I go back. He's making it clear Hamas is a terrorist group. They better follow the rules or they're going to be obliterated. This is a very complex peace plan, this phase two. What happens to Hamas? They're to be disarmed. They're surrender. They're not to have any power whatsoever. But they've already renounced it. They've already said, we're not going anywhere. We're not disarming. They tell the mediators one thing. They are centralizing power now. They're destroying, killing, torturing, interrogating anybody who they think is a challenge to them. In other words, in their little orbit, they're becoming more powerful, not less powerful. And this is a problem. This is a very complex peace plan. The president's right. You've got scores of countries involved, scores of governments involved, scores of personalities involved, different faiths involved, all kinds of things involved. We've never seen anything like this. He deserves great credit for this, as does Jared Kushner, a friend of mine, Steve Witkoff, who I'm becoming friendly with, the prime minister, who's a friend of mine, his man, Ron Dermer, who's a friend of mine. You got the smartest people working on this. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to have to destroy Hamas. because Hamas is not a partner, they're not a country, they're not a team player, they don't believe in diplomacy. Here's the 1988 Hamas original charter: the complete destruction of Israel, obliteration of Israel through jihad, holy war, establishment of an Islamic state to replace the state of Israel and to impose Sharia law, rejection of negotiations, that is, dismisses any negotiated settlement or peace initiatives with Israel. I would suggest people read this. Anti-Semitic rhetoric and conspiracies, language directed at the Jewish people, not just the state of Israel. That is Hamas. Hamas is slaughtering Palestinian Muslims, other Palestinians, other Muslims, and the world is silent. The UN is silent. The Security Council is silent. The River to the Sea crowd, our universities are silent. The Hamas supporting front groups in our country, CARE and the rest, silent. So apparently it's okay to slaughter Palestinians if it's Palestinians slaughtering Palestinians. I don't believe that, but that's exactly what Hamas is doing. And the Emir of Qatar, dare I mention, he put out a speech today, one of the biggest speeches of the year. Here's what he said. What has taken place in the Gaza Strip over the past 2 years amounts to genocide, a term that encapsulates all atrocities. It is regrettable that international legitimacy remains incapable of enforcing its respect when it comes to the tragedy of our brotherly Palestinian people. We hereby reaffirm our condemnation of all Israeli violations and practices in Palestine, particularly the transformation of the Gaza Strip into an area unfit for human life, the continued breaches of the ceasefire, the expansion of settlements in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, the ongoing attempts to Judaize Al-Sharam al-Sharif, that is the Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa Mosque, the holiest place for the Jews. We also reaffirm that the Gaza Strip is an integral part of the Palestinian territories and the United State of Palestine. So that's where our top mediator's head is. They poured $1.8 billion into Hamas. They haven't renounced Hamas. They didn't denounce Hamas theirs. Hamas is slaughtering fellow Palestinians. They didn't say a word about it. And then we're relying on Turkey. Here's Erdogan. You know, the Prime Minister of Israel was invited by the President of Egypt to join all the other countries. And the Prime Minister of Israel said yes, and then he had to say no. Why? Because Erdogan, who hates Israel, who's an Islamist, who threatens them with military extinction and economic distinction, who's a genocidal maniac who's taken over his country, he opposed Netanyahu's attendance, and it was confirmed by his chief of staff. They called Sisi, the president of Egypt, and said, if Netanyahu's there, I'm not coming. Now, these are the two leading countries. So where am I going with this? It's simple. Hamas was surrounded. It is the only army on the face of the earth in modern military history where Israel surrounds its enemy, is about to destroy it, and pulls back for the sake of peace, for the sake of international harmony, and because they're pressured. They surrounded Hamas. They were going to destroy Hamas, and they pulled back. Okay, great. Who's going to take out Israel now? Nations hesitant to send troops to Gaza, fearing clashes with Hamas. Apparently, most of the Arab and Muslim world wants nothing to do with the Palestinians. They wouldn't take any. They want less to do with Hamas. It's going to require Israel and the IDF once again. That's how you're going to get peace once and for all. And that is precisely how it's going to have to be done. Or it'll be a false peace. It'll be a false peace otherwise, because Hamas is not going anywhere. I want to get to a few other things, because we are going to take calls that I think are important. Ted Cruz was at the Cornerstone Church, the mega church, Pastor John Hagee and family, and he is just fantastic. He's one of my best friends. And it's the Hagee Ministries' 45th annual night to honor Israel. 45th annual night to honor Israel. And nobody does it like Pastor Hagee and his church. And their special guest was the great Ted Cruz. I want you to listen to this, just a few minutes. It's a fantastic event, fantastic church, pastor, family, fantastic senator. Cut 4, go.
But the danger that I want to highlight to you tonight is not anti-Semitism on the left. It is anti-Semitism on the right. And I'm here to tell you, in the last 6 months, I have seen anti-Semitism rising on the right in a way I have never seen it in my entire life. Listen, CUFI is extraordinary. The work that CUFI does is desperately, desperately needed. But I'm here to tell you, the church is asleep right now. If I pick up my phone and send out a tweet, if I say good morning, within minutes I will have hundreds of blatantly anti-Semitic responses. When Prime Minister Netanyahu was here a few months ago, I sat down with him for a couple of hours. I raised this issue with him. And his first reaction was, he said, well, that's Qatar, that's Iran, they're paying for it, it's AstroTurf. And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, yes, but no. Yes, Qatar and Iran are clearly paying for it, and there are bots, and they are putting real money behind it. But I am telling you, this is real, it is organic, these are real human beings, and it is spreading. In the last year, we had 3 prominent voices on the right publicly muse, gosh, maybe Hitler wasn't that bad a guy after all. Yes, he was. He was the embodiment of evil. And I asked Prime Minister Netanyahu, I said, imagine how different American political history would have been if Rush Limbaugh had been an anti-Semite instead of a philo-Semite. We would have a fundamentally different country if Rush Limbaugh had spent years spreading poison. I want to tell especially folks that are no longer teenagers or in your 20s, this poison of anti-Semitism on the right, it is spreading with young people. It is gaining traction. Part of it is philosophical. There's an isolationism. So they will argue, what business do we have supporting Israel? Why should America support Israel? It's their problem. Let them deal with it. And let me give you an answer as someone elected to represent 31 million Texans and fight every day for your jobs, your freedom, and your safety and security. The United States supports Israel not because we are helping out a down-on-his-luck neighbor. We're not engaged in a charity act. The United States supports Israel because it is unequivocally in the national security interest of the United States to support Israel.
He's fantastic. And there's several senators who are fantastic. And he's right on. Israel's fighting our enemy. Their enemy, of course, but the enemy of the West, the enemy of America, the enemy of Jews and Christians and moderate Muslims and atheists and gay people and straight people, and Israel's doing the heavy lifting. That's why we support Israel. We share a biblical connection, the Judeo-Christian connection, and let me slip in a great governor. This is a man who I hope will be president one day, quite frankly, and that's Ron DeSantis. He's my governor in Florida, and I don't have to wake up every day worrying about what the hell's going to happen in Florida. This guy's unbelievable. Cut 5, go.
Just look back and think, we're not even 25 years removed from September 11th, and it was universal in that city and around the country, never again. We were never gonna go down this road. And then you got a guy who is sympathetic with communism, Islamism, and he's going to get elected mayor in this city. I think, quite frankly, it's a disgrace, but I also think that it shows you New York City hasn't hit rock bottom. I mean, we remember New York City under Giuliani, and even after that, and then how it's gone south with de Blasio. This guy makes de Blasio look like Ronald Reagan. I mean, like, he is way far left of that. And I think when you're somebody that wants to disband the NYPD, those rank and file officers, those are blue-collar, hardworking people. They are not going to want to work for a guy like this. I think you're going to see a lot of turmoil, and I think that it'll show that the city will further go down.
He's unbelievable, too. DeSantis. What a tremendous governor. Truly, in my lifetime, I've lived a little while, probably the greatest governor. He and Reagan. That's why I don't write him off yet. In fact, I'm very excited about the possibilities for Ron DeSantis. Time will tell.
Mark Levin.
We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
The debate last night with Cuomo, Sliwa, Mamdani got his ass kicked, quite frankly. Now, we can't play all of it, although that would be entertaining. But we will play a little. And, Curtis Sliwa is a good man. He's a good man. He's a great debater. He knows the issues. He's a street guy. He'd be a great mayor. This guy, Mamdani, I don't know how much more I can say about him that exposes what kind of a low life he actually is in every respect. So here he is at the debate. Let's start with cut 13, Mr. Producer. Go.
We first just heard from the Republican candidate for mayor, and then we heard from Donald Trump's puppet himself, Andrew Cuomo. You could turn on TV any day of the week, and you will hear Donald Trump share that his pick for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. And he wants Andrew Cuomo.
When you listen to him, I want you to understand this is what he does. This guy has nothing substantive to say. They give him clever one-liners. He's a sloganeer, and this is typical of Marxists, typical of fascists. It just is. And he'll play this game. He'll be very, very crafty, very, very slippery the way he does these things. And but he won't be substantive at all. Now, you all know Trump doesn't like Cuomo. He doesn't like him. That they were at each other's throats for many years. But he hates Mamdani. He's a communist, as Trump puts it. He's a Marxist-Islamist, as Mark puts it. And he's saying, look, I don't like Cuomo, but somebody's got to beat him, so he says he wants Cuomo. But that's the truth. Go ahead.
Not because it will be good for New Yorkers, but because it will be good for him. Look, Donald Trump ran on 3 promises. He ran on creating the single largest deportation force in American history. He ran on going after his political enemies, and he ran on lowering the cost of living.
He did not run on going after his political enemies. So that's a lie. Or the biggest deportation force. He talked about the need to deport all these illegal aliens. Yes. Go ahead.
To me about the third piece of that agenda, I will always be ready and willing. But if he wants to talk about how to pursue the first and second piece of that agenda at the expense of New Yorkers, I will fight him every single step of the way.
But you haven't explained a thing. Other than you're going to fight. This guy never passed one piece of legislation when he was in the assembly in New York. In fact, he was absent. He was AWOL for a significant period of time. And it's not because he was busy trying to put food on the table and working in the private sector. He didn't do that either. This is probably the least substantively experienced person to ever see a shot of being mayor of New York. Guy's literally done nothing except spew Marxist-Islamist revolutionary propaganda. That's it. He's done nothing. Literally nothing. Those of you who have a small business, would you hire him to manage your store? Those of you who are customers, would you go to him for advice on anything? Of course not. Cut 14, go.
There was reference to the 3 housing-related charter amendment questions. I know Mr. Cuomo is on the record as saying he favors them. We just heard Mr. Sliwa say that he's against them. Where do you stand on those?
I'm appreciative that those measures will be on the ballot and that New Yorkers will be able to cast their votes for them. I know that we desperately need to build more housing in this city, and I also know that the jobs we create in the building of that housing should be good jobs as well.
What a political answer. What is your opinion, Zohran?
Yes,
Come on.
Yes or no?
What is your opinion? Yes or no, Zohran?
True.
Don't be a politician here.
I got it. They're pointing out what I was about to.
Please answer the question. No, I think on the stage you can see 2 people appealing for the Republican Party's votes.
Answer the question. Answer the question for once.
My question to you was, do you support the 3 ballot amendment questions?
I have not yet taken a position on those ballot amendment questions.
Oh, what a shocker.
All right.
What a shocker.
We're gonna
Don't
move
worry,
on.
once he takes it, he'll change it anyway.
Apparently Cuomo was in good form. Sliwa was in good form. Yeah. I don't know how this guy gets elected to a small town mayorship. I really don't. Here's Curtis Sliwa last night about taking on Donald Trump because, you know, this guy gave, I'm going to take on Donald Trump. I'm going to take on Donald Trump. The puppet of the Islamists and the Marxists. You're going to take on Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the president. He could crush this guy. There's a lot of things that a president can do to a city or a state. Cut 12, go.
My adversaries have decided to bump chests with President Trump to prove who's more macho. You can't beat Trump. He holds most of the cards. He's already cut federal funding for Medicaid, for the SNAP program, and is threatening to cut funds for NYCHA. So if you're all of a sudden going to get adversarial, you're going to lose. And who gets hurt? The people of New York City. With Trump, it's always the art of the deal. You have to go, you have to try to negotiate, whether it's with his minions or himself. He'll want you to give in order to get a little bit. But if you immediately act like you're going to take him on, like, you know, it's going to be a one-on-one fight, we're going to lose. All the people in New York City are going to lose. You have to be able to show respect. And I think if you show respect, you'll get respect, and you'll protect the New Yorkers who are so desperately in need of federal funds. What's the good of it? They'll bump chests with Donald Trump. They won't get the money, and then they'll blame Donald Trump. I will negotiate with Donald Trump and try to get the best deal possible for our poor and indigent citizens.
Boy, oh boy. Sounds good to me. How about you, Mr. Producer? I've always liked Curtis. Curtis is a good man. Really and truly. The city's not even Democrat anymore. The city's, so many of the residents are lunatics. They just are, no offense. I want to spend a little time discussing with you healthcare. It's a boring subject for most people until your bills come in, right? Until you can't get the doctor you want, until you can't get into the hospital you want to get into. And all of you people who are on so-called the Affordable Care Act find it utterly unaffordable. It's a lie. There's nothing about affordability in the Affordable Care Act, just like there's nothing about affordability in this moron Mamdani's race. The radical left, the Marxists, the Islamists, it's not about affordability with them. It's about centralization. It's about control, and that's not affordable. In addition to losing your civil liberties. Not one of these communist socialist states is affordable. They take away your benefits. They tell you what you can and cannot do, even if it comes down to life or death. That's why people in Canada leave Canada to try to get to the United States for health care. That's why people in Britain leave Britain and try and get to the United States for health care. But the Democrat Party wants to mimic what's in Canada and what's in Britain. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this with you, as I will on Saturday's Life, Liberty, and Levin, but I want to talk about it with you a little bit in advance and just give you a taste of this. This so-called government shutdown, why did the Democrats do this? For a number of reasons. Number one, they do in fact want to continue, as under Biden, but Trump ended it, to give Medicaid benefits, extraordinary benefits, to illegal aliens. And that would include any illegal alien, including illegal aliens who have murdered, raped, assaulted. Doesn't matter. And the way they do this, you see this guy, Senator Coons, he's on TV, he's speaking over the host. He's saying it's illegal under our law to give these benefits to illegal aliens. It's illegal. It's illegal. And they cite the section. So how do they get around that, Mr. Producer? Well, what did Mamdani say about reducing crime? He wants to eliminate misdemeanors. So people who commit crimes, but they're no longer misdemeanors, are no longer criminals. So what did Biden do and the Democrats do? They set up these phony programs where they not only allowed illegal aliens who came into our country illegally, but illegal aliens they brought into the country to get jobs. Some of them to get what they call parole. Some of them can have a 5-year status without fear of deportation. They twisted our immigration laws. They applied them in a way that they were never supposed to be applied, where millions and millions of people who are here illegally in the Biden regime were not to be deported because they were to be treated at least quasi-legally. Well, guess what? Those people were going on Medicaid. Because even though the law says they're illegal, the Biden regime says they're not. By changing words, by changing definitions in the application. Donald Trump and the Republicans come in and they say, no, we're not doing that anymore. The immigration law is the immigration law. We're not using semantics. Whether they're on parole, whether they have work permits or what have you, that shouldn't have been given to them because the prior regime, the Democrats, actually were unlawful in the application of the immigration rules. We're eliminating it. And so the Democrats are saying the fact that their big, better bill, or whatever they call it, would reverse everything that Trump has done, who reversed everything that Biden had done. The Democrats are saying it's illegal to give benefits to illegal aliens. We're not saying you should, and yet they are. And see, this is how they lie. This is how they deceive. So the millions and millions of illegal aliens whose nomenclature they changed, who are still illegal aliens, deportable, but they wouldn't deport them because they gave them these phony statuses. Trump stripped the varnish off, said, no, you're out of here and you're not getting these benefits. And the Democrats said, oh, yes, they are getting these benefits. So they're blackmailing you and me. They're blackmailing the president and the Republicans. They're blackmailing certain federal employees, military personnel, TSA personnel, FAA personnel. They're blackmailing them all, and they're saying, well, unless you agree to give the illegal aliens Medicaid, we're not voting to open that 17% of the government. So the Republicans come back and say, why don't we at least have a vote? We'll have a simultaneous vote, pretty simultaneous. We'll vote for the continuing resolution, then we'll have a vote on your subsidy. They said, no, we want the outcome. You must give us what we're demanding, not just a vote. But it's even worse. That's just on illegal aliens. How does this affect you personally? Other than paying for illegal alien health care that you can't get. Obamacare was passed 12 years ago. It's a disaster. It's a complete failure. People on Obamacare get second-rate health care. They can't see the doctors they want to see. They can't go to the hospitals on time where they want to go. They can't get the medicines they want. And yet the premiums are extraordinarily high. And the subsidies by the federal government are enormous. And it got worse during the pandemic. Listen to this. It's important. What they did is they increased the subsidies. So it's anybody at the poverty level times 4. Poverty level times 4. They increased the subsidies for those people. And guess what they did? They lifted the cap to include people who are well beyond the poverty level plus 4. Plus 4 means, okay, let's say the poverty level is 15,000 times 4, 60,000. That's what it means, plus 4. Well, they took the cap off. And now we're subsidizing, or you're subsidizing, people who make significantly more than that. Now, what has this done to the system? The addition of the illegal aliens plus the destruction that Obamacare is causing medical prices to skyrocket because of the pressure on supply and demand. It's causing the hospital stays to skyrocket. It's causing doctors' costs, which they pass on to us, to skyrocket. You have a huge influx of millions of people who are paying absolutely nothing. You're paying for it. People coming through the Obamacare system. Remember, Obamacare was going to cut premiums $2,500 a year for all of us? Obamacare now is increasing at such a high rate, it's well beyond the inflation in the entire healthcare system. So Obamacare is imploding. And the Democrats are saying, increase the subsidies, don't eliminate the people over poverty 4 times. In other words, keep in place the pandemic level, massively increase the subsidies to hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. So they want to expand it and increase it while it's imploding. The Republicans are saying, no, we got to fix this thing. We can't fix it right now. We got to go through the appropriations process. All these higher premiums are going to kick in about a month. And the Democrats are saying, screw you. You either do what we tell you to do, or that's the way it is. And we're going to count on the media blaming you. They all voted for Obamacare, every single Democrat. They all voted to expand Obamacare during the pandemic. They don't want to pull it back from pandemic levels. They want to expand it beyond pandemic levels. And they want to bring the illegal aliens back into this system. Plus hundreds of billions more than that, up to $1.5 trillion. That's what they're doing. That's what they want to do to you. And they're going to destroy Medicare, Medicaid, employee insurance programs, because they're pushing the cost of health care through the roof.